Welcome to the Rake, everybody. We have a very exciting guest today, Charlie Carrel, poker player, vlogger, streamer, coach, and meditation mindfulness enthusiast. Welcome, Charlie.
Hi.
Is that accurate?
I don't know if I'm a vlogger, but these days, yeah, I'd say that's about it. A few other things you might be able to scatter in there.
Yeah. Britt, where are you in the UK about?
I don't give away my exact location, but in Surrey, let's call it.
Surrey, okay. I don't really know. I'm in Gloucestershire, so I don't know how close we are, but
no idea what that is.
Apparently. But I'm falling in love with the UK, and I also love your cat. What's your cat's name?
Pearl.
Pearl.
Oh my God.
She's so beautiful. Jamie, have you seen Pearl?
No. Why are you holding out? Maybe at some point she can come in as a guest.
Yeah, I'll get her at the end of the podcast, and I don't want her to come on now because she'll just steal all the attention away from anything we're going to talk about. She's my everything, man.
You can see in the corner, there's Crouton's feet in the very corner. He likes to podcast with us, but he's a little shy.
Yeah.
Crouton's such a cute name.
Thanks.
Babies.
Do you mind if we start out by talking about, because this is very relevant to me and a bunch of players today who are about to start a 30-day online WSOP schedule. With live poker, it's easy to get into routines because you kind of have to, like, get up, shower, maybe you get up, workout, shower, meditate, go play the tournament, come home. When you're online, you can kind of just freelance your day. And I think a lot of people might do that, like with bad eating, with not really preparing themselves to actually start the tournament that could last 20 hours. Like, the schedule is kind of crazy. There's no day twos. So I just wanted to ask you, how do you prepare? Do you meditate? And what does your day look like before you start a big online session?
Yeah, so I mean, I think like a lot of people, my routine starts off a lot more ambitious than it actually reifies in reality. So I was very particular about the type of life that I was leading when I was playing the Scoop. I haven't played poker in a good month and a half, 2 months, not really sure. But when I decided, okay, I'm going to start a coffee habit, because the routine of going to sleep somewhere between 1 a.m. and 7 a.m. is just insanity. And I'm sure if I were a true meditation master, then I wouldn't have to drink coffee, but I'm not. So that was a big part of the change from non-poker to poker. But what I generally do, I would wake up before I check my phone or anything. I'd go outside, put my feet in some grass, do some breathing, try and do some yoga. That is, I find pretty hard to motivate myself to do every day. Then I would cook for myself, make some tea, and then I would start looking at my emails, start doing stuff around my charity, start doing, other things that I have to do on the side. And then the perfect day would be one where I don't really intellectually engage myself until about an hour before I start playing poker, because I found it's so exhausting playing poker for, say, like 13 hours straight, and you have to be thinking constantly. There's a thing where they measured I don't know if it's like metabolism of chess players or something, but the best chess players in the world, when they were playing all day, they burnt like 6,000 calories. And it's just insane. I really feel it might be a similar level when I'm playing poker, because I'm so invested. I'm trying to think about every single spot so deeply. So I try not to use up any of that brain juice before about an hour before, but then I'd warm up maybe with some chess, maybe with some poker, maybe watch a stream, maybe watch Marle's stream.
Wow.
I was on the rail a lot with you and Spraggy, Team Spraggy.
Yeah, he tells me you're always in there. Yeah, he does a great job. I'm new to it, so I'm like a bit more. I get a bit more tilted with the chat. Me and Jimmy were just talking about this.
Yeah.
Rage quit a few times this month, but
dude, it's super understandable, and it can come out of nowhere as well, because you can have like 8 hours of everyone just being lovely, and everyone has their own little egoic tics. Like, if somebody says a particular thing to me, I don't even want to say what it is. It might just put me down like a half an hour ego spiral of being like, no, and I'll try to be acting loving and kind, but it'll just come out really defensive. That's one of the reasons that I didn't try and stream when I was playing high stakes. But yeah, so leading up to the day, I would eat super healthy. I would meditate for at least an hour. and do different mantras, do different things that were going through my mind, just to kind of calm myself down and aim at the highest potential that I could aim at. And I think that's actually extremely important to, when you're going into a day, believe that you can win, believe that you're going to be lucky, believe that you're going to be confident, believe that you're going to be skillful, believe that things are going to go your way. Because even if there isn't some kind of like literal metaphysical underpinning to that, which, you know, I'm not ruling out, it at least puts you in a confident mindset, which for tournaments especially is just the number one crucial thing. Because when those situations come in where you're unsure about what to do, there's some gray area, that's when your emotions come into play. People like to think they're pure logic, or that, you know, they're pure mathematics, but if you watch anybody play, there's emotion in basically any uncertain decision that they have. So I really feel like these kind of mantras to make oneself confident are one of the most important things someone can do for their EV.
Yeah, I was going to say, even if you don't believe that it actually affects your outcome, how much you believe you could win, things like that, what if it just makes you happy and you get to play more? Like, it might make you feel like, okay, everything's going fine. Like, this is poker. Sometimes bad things happen. It's fine. Maybe the next day you wake up and you put in a session you wouldn't put in if you were a pissed off, angry player who thinks like the world's against them. You've printed money just by being in a mindset that lets you play more.
Yeah, exactly. I think there are just so many hidden benefits to being in a positive mindset, and being the kind of person, you know, if they get bad beat, then they're smiling and laughing, and not the kind of person that if a bad beat happens, you know, like flipping the table and kicking their cat or whatever.
Oh,
No, don't kick your cats, guys. Mine is EV to kick cats.
But
How do you guys handle tilts and bad beats?
well, it's interesting because there was a thread, there was some stuff going on Twitter this week about some people talking about streamers and being emotional and how that's really unhealthy to, like, you know, be that emotionally invested when you're playing poker, of course. And it's, you know, Spraggy and I were talking about it, and I think it is a reason why you don't see too many people playing super high on Twitch. And you know what I mean? Like, if you're playing like really serious, tough fields, because you have to be entertaining. It's so hard to do both, because you really can't be emotionally invested. You really kind of have to turn it off. And I don't know. It's a tough call, because when you're streaming, like, you have to entertain. No one wants to see a robot, but
right. It doesn't seem exactly like, it's not completely genuine. I know when I'm watching someone stream that if they were playing one table on their laptop laying in bed, they don't, like, the ace hits the river, they don't go wow and throw their laptop. Like, I know that it's being played out. So I don't feel like these people are like emotionally unhealthy because they're reacting. I just assume that they're hamming it up a little bit because the chat thinks it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I slightly disagree with that. I do think that it's really hard when you're playing for 12 hours straight to hide who you truly are. And I think that it really shows when some people, they'll be trying to act like all positive and everything's upbeat, but when they get, you know, they lose an 80-20, then suddenly they're just like, and you can see their face kind of tense up, and they might be a bit more rude to the chat and things like that. I actually feel like, for me, when streaming, it always goes the best if I'm trying not to perform. You know, if I'm, and I do find myself performing sometimes, and I'll catch myself out and being like, why am I speaking like this? It's not my voice. That's not like, nobody wants to see me be like, hey guy, like, it's not me. And I think that in a world where people don't have much sincerity in the way that they act and the way that they speak, people really do appreciate seeing somebody be themselves.
yeah.
True.
I was just gonna say, like, sometimes when I'm streaming, I literally won't say a word for 30 minutes. Because I just don't want to. Like, I'd rather just be sincere. Like, I'm just in the zone here. Like, I'm just chilling. I got music on. I'm just playing. And that's authentic. And then people are in the chat like, crickets. Is she dead, or is she? You know,
yeah, it's so tilting.
It's tilting. It's like, well, I'm not a fucking monkey here. You know, you want to watch, like, me play poker. If I have something to say about a hand that's interesting, I'll say it. But I'm not going to just narrate every fucking action, because
I think that sometimes when I'm commentating, like, I like having someone in a booth that talks a lot, who has like a lot, that's their natural personality, like Tuckman or Stapes, they talk a lot, and they're really like, that is them, they're not faking anything. And then I get to just kind of be like, oh, I have something to add. Or, like, I have
I've
a
thought
joke
for 5 minutes and I've come up with a smart one, boys.
Right? Exactly. Like, you just feel like you're your best self because you're only chiming in when you feel like you have something valuable to say. when you're talking to someone who, or like, that's why I think streaming is tough, because I did feel pressure when I would try it to just be like, I'm entertaining you guys. Like, are you having fun? Is everyone in the chat having a good time? And it's like really hard to play poker and also try to like put on a little show. I give people credit. Like, I think it's a very exhausting, for me anyway. I was exhausted every single day after I would try it. And I don't know. It's cool to have the mindset you have, Marley, where you're just like, whatever, this is me. Watch if you want. That's great.
Well, I fell in the same trap as Charlie, and I think everyone else. Like, sometimes I do feel like I'm like, what am I doing? Like, but then I just realize, like, sometimes I'm just like on, and I just go through. It's like you're on for 8 hours, and there's always like 30 minutes where I'm just fucking zoning out, man. I just want to get in the zone. I have 6 tables or whatever, and I just want to veg. And
that's six tables in streaming, man. That's strong. When I was playing Scoop, I was 2 tabling, no stream, and even then I was still a bit like, I'd rather sometimes just be 1 tabling. So I always think that adding a stream is probably adding like another 6 tables.
Well, you're probably playing like 5Ks. I play the big 11, so.
It's different poker though. Do you feel, Charlie, like when I feel like when I'm down to 1 or 2 tables, I'm more exhausted because I'm really thinking and I'm trying to figure out how it feels more like live poker where you're sitting and you're like, okay, I actually can observe these people and make decisions based on that. And it's not going to just be robotic and just automatic. When I'm like 8 tabling or something, I just kind of feel like I'm like, okay, you play decent ABC style and like see what stacks you build for later when you play real poker. Do you feel like that? Or you said you get really exhausted after each day and like you feel like you burn a lot of calories like the chess players do thinking. Talk a little bit about that. Like, have you been a mass multi-tabler before, and then compare that to like live poker high rollers?
Yeah, so when I was grinding up the stakes playing cash games, I was 24 tabling, and I handle that fine. But in hindsight, I would have done it differently, because even though you do gain some skills of really honing your autopilot when you're 24 tabling, you don't get to really get deep dive description of how poker works, So even up until about a year ago when I was playing online, I would usually 6 to 8 table, and that is like a sign that you're getting old. But this Scoop round, I was 1 and 2 tabling, and I really feel like my results are so much better when I do that. I find it way less exhausting when I'm 1 or 2 tabling, because I can meditate whilst I'm sitting there. It's a different challenge. You have to stop yourself wanting to bring up more tables, wanting to distract yourself, wanting to play a YouTube video on the side. And for me, it was really good to sit there, pay attention to every single hand that was happening, especially if I'm 1 tabling. And I would even like, when I was playing party poker, it would have their real names. I would even Google search that person's name, get their face up on the screen, and try and tap into the kind of person that they are, know who they are, trying to tap into, is this the kind of person that might, check raise bluff this spot because I check raised him twice in a row. Is he the kind of person to blast off, things like that. So I actually do think there's so much room for going for the quality over quantity style, although obviously it could decrease your hourly if you're playing a similar game.
That sounds like you must love live poker then, because those qualities is what makes live poker so great. You're just in the moment, you're seeing people's faces. It's better because they're in the flesh, so you can get the body language and all that stuff. I know you play try-ins and you've played a bunch of big live events. Do you prefer those to online?
Oh man, I love them so much. It's not quite the same trying to get a live read from a photo. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
I absolutely love live poker. I love being able to talk to people. I love being able to, even if they don't talk back, I'll try not to be rude, try not to pressure them in too many ways. But if I really feel like when somebody's in flow state, when somebody's on their complete A game, and they're tapped into how the other person is feeling, like if they're maybe a more empathetic person, or if they're just logically, intuitively in touch with them, it almost feels like you can play a person like you play an instrument. Like it feels like, okay, if I say this, I'll look for this kind of reaction because on this turn he might think of this, or I'll say this and I'll see if he looks at the pot, or I'll see if he looks at his cards. And there's so many little micro nuances that you can do with body language. And it's interesting to me because so much of what poker's become recently, it's selected for the mathematically talented people. And that almost by necessity, unless somebody's like a fucking enlightened being like the Dalai Lama or whatever, it means that they're not super in touch with their empathy usually, and it means they're usually not super in touch with their intuition, or at least their non-logical intuition. They're more emotional intuition. Yeah, exactly. So I think that there is actually this whole layer of poker which is waiting to be unturned. This whole like jungle waiting for a few people to machete through, and I think a few people have. You could think of people like Igor, or like Chance Cornuth, or what's that really big guy's name that's dating?
Uni? Chris
No.
Unishin or someone else? Because I feel
Oh
like
my
he's
God.
pretty fun to
Alex
watch.
Foxen. Alex Foxen.
Oh,
I feel like he really big guy.
Yeah.
I feel like he's getting pretty good at live reads as well, and I think that the equity that can come and the EV that can come from being really, really good at live reads is just huge. It just so happens, I think, that there hasn't been too much of a crossover of people that are logically consistent enough to be able to be really, really good at the theory of poker, and then intuitive enough at reading people to have that kind of middle ground of being able to do both. So I think that
funny, people pick a team. Like, it's really weird. Like, it used to be online versus live guys, right? Like, who's better, online or live? We're like, obviously online. But now, but then now it's like the GTO versus the live read people. And I was like, well, live reads are pretty useless if your fundamentals suck. And GTO, to some extent, it's great for online, but probably won't be quite as successful live when people are doing things that are terrible and you can exploit them if you're willing to stray from that. So it's kind of weird that it's like one versus the other. I'm like, I think the best players in the world are probably the ones that get really solid fundamentals and focus on GTO. And then they also care about the aspect that you can like psychologically game people a little bit.
This is a bit of a can of worms for me. I mean, I'm like notoriously the anti-GTO person, although I highly, highly respect the kind of knowledge of the game that people can get, the solvers that might teach GTO. Firstly, I think that it's absolutely terrible to teach a new player GTO. I think that it really quells their creativity. It really stops them from being able to understand the game intuitively. If you just like, this is how you play, it doesn't let them
and
make
it's
all
not
mistakes.
fun. Like, part of poker is fun
true.
when you first start, and it's just not very fun to learn that way.
Yeah, it's not fun to get to the end of the day and have PO solvers being like, you made 6 wrong plays. It's like, I thought it was a cool hierarchy, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I do think some of the GTO players do have, that they're moving towards the live read arena as well. So I don't think they're mutually exclusive. It does seem to be pretty heavy within the poker community that to be a good player, you have to be studying game theory. And I actually think that's a mass mental delusion of part of the poker scene. Just because the people that have been successful have started to study game theory, but I don't think it's a necessity.
I watched your interview, you had a Poker News interview follow-up about fuck GTO, and you're like, actually, they don't even play optimally, so it's just GT. And I was like, that's hilarious if you start the fuck GT. I don't know, I might just disagree with you there, because I've been struggling for a long time in poker, or just not struggling, but not motivated, and just kind of like skating through and playing the stuff I could beat, trying to play games I could beat. And then I started studying solvers. I'm like, wow, this feels like an avenue to actually like stop being so stagnant and get a little bit better. But I agree with you in the part where if I started this out like my first year playing and they're like, here, it's like studying math, I'd be like, this sucks. Because
I'm completely with you. And I think it can be an extraordinarily good tool, especially for people who already have that fundamental layer of intuition for the game. And it can, for a certain type of logically minded person, it can really spark motivation to learn about it, because some people just love number crunching. They love looking at, I'm meant to mix this hand, and I'm meant to use this blocker, and this is why, and it is a new lens to see the game through. And I don't think I underestimate how powerful it is to really fully understand that. I just personally feel that there are other ways to get really, really, really good at poker that don't have to go through that avenue.
I want to
actually one of them, going back to what we were talking about before, one of them's meditating. I mean, I see so many people who will spend hours and hours and hours a day looking at all the solvers, but they won't spend 5 minutes a day to just sit and put themselves and turn themselves into the kind of person that can not tilt in a situation, or turn themselves into the kind of person that's going to be more energized when it comes to playing a long day or something like that. So I think there's so many things that people could be doing other than studying GTO to get super duper good at poker. And another one might be like learning how to tap into your intuition, like learning how to really hone that craft of intuitively understanding something or someone or anything, because that is something that we're not taught in school. We're not taught how to do that. We're not taught how to tap into that fundamental in like craft, let's call it, because it's hard to teach. You have to look east. You have to look to the Buddhists or the Taoists or the Hindus or something like that, the people that have really got a good understanding of how the human mind works.
Yeah, I am very new to meditation myself. I was not forced, a friend group of mine did Deepak Chopra, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's like 30 days of meditation or whatever. There's different ones every day. And I was dragged into it and I did it. But, I've definitely, just talking about it with my friend and stuff. And there's definitely been times when I've been playing poker where it's always like a happy accident where I'm in the quote unquote flow state. And it's like, you don't even consciously have the thoughts of like, oh, I need to call this off this often, or like he only represents this. It's not even like those conscious thoughts. You just like instinctively you just make the decisions without the actual words or reasons going through your head. They're there, but you don't, it's like just instant.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And it really is removing that layer of having to think consciously. Like, one of the things I think is really relevant is that poker hasn't been around for too long, and people are still trying to work out how to optimize their strategies, how to optimize themselves to be good at poker, and how to optimize how to even think about the game. And if you look at like a chess, for instance, you understand what it means to be only acting through intuition, because they'll be playing a 1 minute bullet game where they don't have time to think, they don't have time to calculate. Or they might be playing a 5 minute game where sometimes they'll have time to think, but sometimes they'll have to just intuitively make a decision. So they'll be fine tuning their intuition, but they'll also be fine tuning their ability to calculate. And I don't think that's something that the poker world has really figured out yet.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I wanted to ask you something. This pertains to the last year. I had a vegan bet, so I went vegan for a year, and then it's like bled over into after the year because there's a lot of stuff I really liked, and me and Marle have debated food and all this different stuff. I was commentating an event that you and Ben Heath were both at the final table, or it was like maybe 2 tables left. I think it was Razadov, and the waitress came over and brought avocado and just put eggs on it. And I was just like, oh, they're going to be so pissed because they're both eating vegan or whatever. And Ben was just like, it's okay. The damage is done already. I'll just eat this. Thank you. And she walks away and I was like, oh my God, that's so reasonable. Like, that's so reasonable to not be so strict with yourself and with everything, to just realize that now, like, throwing out the animal product is stupid. Like, this is nutrition and you should just eat it, and just realize that, like, you can't put, the damage is done already, get over it. But I feel like it kind of fits how you talk about poker as well, because you're not like GTO, we're strict with everything, we don't think about other stuff. Like, do you think that this is something that just like bleeds into your regular real life, where like you have this approach to poker, and then maybe in your real life you kind of approach eating and like ethical decision making in a similar way?
That was a really impressively structured question, by the way. I think that poker and real life, they go hand in hand. Yeah, you work on something in poker, like you have to work on not tilting, and suddenly you tilt less in your relationship, or you're in business and you have to work on decision making, and that will then spill into your poker as well. So I really think that poker is or it can be, if people choose it to be, an absolutely spiritual journey. You're having to sit there for hours and hours and hours at a time, digging into your own thoughts, digging into what makes you tick, digging into how to motivate yourself. You have to face your demons, otherwise you're going to be caught out in that moment, whether you're going to be a bit of a pansy when it comes to a final table, or whether it's because your ego is going to kick them and someone 3-bets you twice in a row or something like that. Absolutely, it filters through to the rest of my life as well. Nutrition wise, by the way, the one thing I found, I've spoken about every single controversial topic under the sun online, the one thing that really gets people riled up, nutrition. Something about it, man. Everyone's got an opinion.
It's really crazy too, because like the vegan thing, like I feel like I'm very much I'm just trying to do things that are logical at this point, which is trying to get through a bunch of billion-dollar corporations that will have propaganda and figure out what is being fed to us, like informationally, and then deciding, you know, me and Marley talked about this, like if I'm in Iowa and we're on a cattle ranch, I'll probably eat meat, like because it doesn't have to travel as far. If I order an avocado, it might actually be worse than actually eating meat in that place. Yeah, for the carbon footprint and stuff. We have to like think of all this stuff.
It's a tough succubus, I think, to get involved in trying to micromanage oneself to try and be the most optimal ethical person they can possibly be. Because not only do you have to think about, okay, the environment, okay, there's animals, how valuable are animals as the planet, then you have to start thinking, okay, could I be using this time to research undereducated children in India? You know, there's just a million different ethical things that we could do. And I think that one of the worst things about the vegan movement is that there are so many people saying, no, this is how to be ethical. This is how to be good. And I think that just turns off loads of people's minds. Like I personally barely any animal products apart from honey. It's not really a moral decision. It's more of a nutritional one. But at the same time, you know, I like the idea of not harming animals through factory farm processes. I wouldn't usually or ever actually buy from factory farms. But then I'm not going to be the person that goes up to some person in a tribe, like a shaman, being like, your whole culture for the last 6 millennia has been evil because you hunt and kill deer. You know, I can't be that person. I don't think I have that kind of moral high grounds to be able to tell anybody what's right and what's wrong.
People interpret your choices as trying to take the moral high ground. And I just don't feel like I'm not a judgmental person at all. While doing the vegan bet and like continuing now, I'll cook a steak if my boyfriend wants one. I'm not like, everyone should choose for themselves. People get really pissed at other people making different decisions for their health and nutrition. I'm like, I'm happy when people try. I'm happy when people
sounds like you've spent a bit of time on Twitter though.
Everyone's mad. That's Twitter in a nutshell, where you just go on, you're like, let's see who's pissed off today and like why.
Exactly. I actually had to delete Twitter. It was too much. Yeah,
I love it too much.
That's really admirable. That's whew.
I'm not sure it's admirable. I wish it were a virtue, but it was just getting too much for me. I'm not zen enough to be able to not have it significantly affect my mental health. I think if I'm on Twitter every day and just having some anonymous account with 3 followers just being like, you're a dick. I was like, oh. I can handle Twitch, I can handle YouTube, but there's something about Twitter where it's like everyone can now see that person calling you a dick. It's like, I feel like I want to reply, and if I don't, I feel bad. And there was something in me that kind of triggered from when I was being bullied as a kid, and I was just like, I'm out. I'm done. Luckily, Twitch and the other social media I use, 99.9% of the interactions I have are actually just lovely. So I really think that there's something unique about the format of a lack of anonymity and a lack of accountability from Twitter.
I think with Twitter, for me anyway, I love Twitter. I think I get a lot out of it. I learn a lot from people. But anytime I make some kind of point that's like politically charged at all or controversial at all, the next time I go to open Twitter, I have this like pit in my stomach of like, ugh, people are going to be super mean to me. Like I open it knowing that I'm going to feel bad. And that is not a great feeling, but also it feels like reality. You know, like if I just sit with my boyfriend and dog and a couple of friends, they're always going to be nice to me. But like, that's not real life either. And I feel like sometimes you get challenged on stuff on Twitter that actually makes you think a little bit. Not the trolls. Who cares? They're like, you're fat. I'm like, I don't care. But if they actually come up with something, they're like, hey, actually, I think that opinion is horrible. And here's why. Every once in a while, you do get challenged on things that maybe you should be changing.
I agree with that. And I think that accepting and embracing criticism is crucial, but I actually think that Twitter is nowhere near reality. I think that it's like this obscure, warped version of reality where everyone feels that they can get away with saying whatever they want. And people are often on there just to disagree, and they might not even believe the criticism that they're throwing at you. Whereas I think if you interact with people in person, or if for me on Twitch is really good, because I can be like, hey guys, this is my opinion. And I can give all the caveats, like I don't hold this opinion so closely to my heart that I'm angry at people who disagree with me. I want to be told why I'm wrong. And I as long as you say it in a nice way, then I'm happy to. And I think setting that tone You can do it in person. You can do it in Twitter, in Twitch, but you can't really do that in Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. I mean, I obviously I have this rule for myself now where I do with Twitter where I write out a tweet and then I wait 30 minutes, and if I still want to send it,
That's so good. That's so good.
because like sometimes and I don't follow 100%, but I'm pretty good with it these days, because sometimes I'm just reacting, and I a lot of times I just realize it's just not worth it, and I really struggle with like the worth it, like, you want to like be authentic, you want to like say what you really think, you want to be real, and you also want to realize like what's worth it and what's not, and honestly, as time goes on, very few things are seeming worth it to me, on
People have been, sorry, you.
No, go for it.
People have been extraordinarily harsh to you, Marle. And I've watched your career since I watched a vlog of yours like over a year ago. And I think there's something about certain people's personalities that really bring out the worst in people. And I feel like 99% of the criticism that I interview, even though sometimes it's guys with this, I'm just trying to be reasonable, it's actually super unreasonable. Do you, I mean, seeing this is your life, do you have any reason or internalized reason of why so many people have been assholes to you?
Well, I mean, I think when you come out, I mean, I understand I'm controversial, just as you are, and I would agree. I think when you come out with vlog number 6 and you're talking about, sucking dick for steaks, but like
it was a joke though. I saw that one.
It was
and
an
people got really
obvious
mad
joke.
that you were like slut shaming, and it's like,
dude, it was an obvious
I know
joke.
many people in the sex work industry. I genuinely showed that video to a couple of them, and they're like, of course that's not offensive. But the people getting offended are not in the sex work industry, just being like, I can speak for them. I'll let you know. You're a whorephobe or whatever it is these days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, I've forever, I even as a person, like, and, I'm not the most eloquent with how I speak. I'm very blunt, and I've known that. And so I kind of, it never got to me until like people who like are actually in the community were critical. Obviously, most notoriously when Bonomo came out, and again, like, I don't necessarily even like Bonomo, but because like I don't care about random trolls or even poker players who really, because I always like, kind of subscribe to the, what's it called? The quote of like, if you're not out there, if you're not out there, like putting yourself out there and subjecting yourself to criticism, then you don't get to have an opinion about my shit. Because like, I'm out there being fucking vulnerable and like making shit and like having an opinion. And if you're not, you don't get to have an opinion about my shit unless you're doing the same in some way. So obviously Bonomo is, or Kelly is, or anybody who's in the past come out. Me and Kelly are cool now, whatever. But
who's Kelly?
Minkin,
Oh yeah, I like her.
Yeah, and she, and hers was like a huge misunderstanding and whatever, from both our part. But it that's what upsets me, is somebody who I actually have respect for, when they are so fucking harsh on me and they don't get it. And that was the only thing that upset me. But I mean, to go back to your original question, I just think, you can't be controversial and expect people to not react to you. Like, that's just, I'm not vanilla,
We interrupt this podcast for an important message from our sponsors at Run It Once. Due to the overwhelmingly positive community response to our weekly leaderboard program at Run It Once Poker, we've decided to make it a daily affair. From now until July 5th, every player on Run It Once Poker has the chance to compete for a pool of over €15,000 in prizes across 6 daily leaderboards and 1 weekly leaderboard. This program includes 3 no-limit hold'em leaderboards and 3 pot limit Omaha leaderboards that will pay out prizes to the top 10 players for each given day. Plus, we've got 1 200 PLO leaderboard that will pay out to the top 15 players of the week. For full details, head to once.run/daily. And, as always, if you're looking to improve your poker game, be sure to check out Run It Once Training, where membership gives you access to the largest library of high-quality poker training content on the web, with over 5,000 videos from a stable of some of the biggest names in the industry, including Run It Once founder Phil Gelfond. Sign up now through once.run/learn and you'll get free access to 3 of their elite level videos. And now, let's get back to the pod.
There's just one thing that bothers me about social media and specifically the poker community is that the beef that you and Bonomo have is so insignificant. It is so small. It is about a video you made that you thought was funny that he didn't think was funny. He thought it was hurtful. You didn't think it was hurtful. This is some minor disagreement. I don't think it goes down to like the core beliefs you have or like your values, but you guys are going to be enemies. Like it's like in poker, you're like, oh yeah, like if you see Bonomo in the hallway, oh, that's awkward. I'm like, why is this a big deal? Like I've told jokes where I'm like, someone will like 80 straight of my jokes, and then one joke they're like, ooh, like that misses the mark. Gross. You think this? And I'm just like, okay, and then you should get over it because, you know, mostly we get along and mostly we agree. Why is this like this? People can't just apologize. You don't even have to apologize for that. But let's say that you did and said, oh, Bonomo, I could see your point. I wish I had said it a little differently so that you understood I was coming from a good place, and now it's over with. It's not like that at all. Like it's super unreasonable, like the beefs that get started in poker and how they never seem to go away.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons I think for that, just to get mildly political, is that there's this prevailing narrative amongst kind of like the left wing of politics. So I don't really like talking about left and right, which seems to be huge on Twitter, is that they can link a very small action to a very significant phenomenon. So they'll say, okay, because you're adding to the disrespect of people who are in sex work, and people who are in sex work get attacked and, you know, get harassed in the street or get, you know, murdered even in some cases in a disproportionate rate to the rest of society, they'll play a little link game and say, well, you're adding to the fact that sex workers are dying. And then in their minds, it becomes this big deal, and it becomes this inflated thing that they have to speak up about it to be morally okay with themselves. And I think that's absolute nonsense. And I think that's one of the reasons why.
Definitely nonsense. Like I made some little joke the other day where I was like, I'm ragging on myself for not being good at poker, for not studying poker enough. And I was like, oh man, I feel like Sims are really hard. Like how hard is it to open an OnlyFans account? And I'm like clearly just telling a joke. And I'm not judging people who have them. I'm like, I have friends who have them. I was like, if I thought I could be successful at that, I'd probably do it. But people were coming at me with like the gotcha type stuff where they're just like, oh, what do you think that's wrong to do? I'm like, no. How do you extrapolate that far where you think I'm judging women for like making money off of something that they're good at? I'm like, it's kind of crazy to take that leap after one like pretty innocent joke. But something that sucks right now is that we the cancel culture thing, and I actually hate all these stupid terms that people make, but pretty much there's no coming back. Like, why don't we accept apologies anymore? Why can't people do a bunch of stuff after the fact to show that their heart was actually in the right place and they're making a joke? Like, what if Marle's friends are a bunch of sex workers? What if she does like volunteers to help in certain things? I feel like there's nothing people can do once they've been deemed to be like a bad person to come back from it. And I think that's like a really horrible way for everyone to live. It's like if you make one mistake, Marle's wasn't even a mistake, it was just a joke. But if you do make some like horrible mistake, you can never come back from it. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I think that we're actually in lucky positions where even though the cancel culture mob can come after us, they can't actually cancel us. You know, they're not going to get us banned from playing online poker or something like that. So I'm actually, there's a part of me that's really expecting. So I'm just launching a charity. It's going to be live within about a month. Nice. And we're planning, I'm so excited for it. I just got the first version of the app on my phone. It's so cool. So I'm planning on having a big media push, and I'm planning on getting on a load and loads of podcasts to speak about it and to push it and to get people speaking about it. But what I'm also expecting with the cancel culture is that if somebody asks me, hey, what are your opinions on like Black Lives Matter? I have loads of criticisms of the Black Lives Matter movement, but you're not allowed to say them in most places. Otherwise you'll get fired, or, you know, and even though I can support a lot of what they're doing, and I can see them as beautiful people sticking up for what they really believe in, I think some of the things that are like prevailing narratives within the movement are just stupid. And I think that it can be a discombobulated movement, for instance. But a part of me is just, I don't know, I'm a bit excited to see what the cancel culture will do with it. because you see it so much, and people getting fired from their jobs, and people just like really going for the necks of who I'm trying to speak to their relatives or their friends, of trying to see who they follow and just be like, hey, you're this person, and trying to get them fired. It's just so crazy. A bit of my ego is a bit like, I wonder what they're going to do.
Yeah, because pretty much you were like, as a poker player, I totally agree with that if you are just playing poker and you're a profitable player, you can't get canceled until poker dies or something, and then you have to get a real job. Like, they can't do much to you. But yeah, if you have a charity and you're going to be in the spotlight and you want people to view your charity with a positive lens, they will look at things you say and do, and they will like have their views colored by that. So do you want to talk about your charity and stuff, or do you want to wait till you launch it?
Yeah, I'd love to if you guys are happy to hear about it. It's I'll give you the kind of brief version of it. We have extraordinarily high goals to end homelessness in the UK within the next 5 years, and that's a really nuanced topic to be able to define, even to say what does ending homelessness mean. But essentially, we think we have the ability to help enable the government and pre-existing charities and the resources we're going to be bringing to the table to offer housing and other basic necessities to every single rough sleeper within the UK. So it's centered around an app which is going to allow people to digitally donate commodities to homeless people. So a lot of the issues that people have when they're trying to give money to homeless people, or people who are homeless outside, Oxford Street or something, is that, well, I have £5. How much of that will go towards you buying alcohol or you buying crack or something like that? So we're creating an app that will skip out that part. So if you walk party and they are Thrive acceptable, they're on our database, you'd be able to give them money, say like £10, and be like, okay, you can go sleep somewhere for a night, and then they'll be able to take that £10 on their app. They wouldn't be able to use it for anything else, but okay, now you can go have a roof over your head for a night. So apart from that, and people would also be able to do it from home if they're on their sofa, they just feel like, finding someone they want to give to. Apart from that, we're also going to be trying to, we have a pretty eloquent data analysis system on the back end being developed. So one of the issues around charities at the moment is that the only kind of centralized organizational force that exists saying you do this at this point, you do this over here, is the government. And the government's just crap at it. Like, I love the government in a bunch of different ways, but they're really, really, really crap at coordinating anything, basically. Because apart from the postal service, they're sick of that. So what we're going to be hoping to do, as we're going to be working with all these suppliers, all these charities to help people get to their doors, we're also going to have a lot of data. Say, okay, you guys are good at this. You could do this at this point, in this place, at this time, and try and act as that centralized force.
That's really cool. One little question from that, though. Do you think it's bad? Like, when I give money to a homeless person, I just don't care what they're using it for. Like, I understand that they have needs that are much higher, that take a lot more money. And it's great if someone's taking care of those. But if I give a homeless person $5 and they want to go buy alcohol for the day, I sometimes want to get drunk. Like, I sometimes want to smoke weed.
If I was
like,
on the street, man, I
would want to be drunk sometimes. Like, you probably need an escape more than anyone else if you're homeless and your life sucks right now. How do you feel like that's, I don't know, like, some people think that's their point for not ever helping homeless people, is they're going to use it just on this and this. And like, I don't agree with that. I'm like, well, I get to spend my money how I want. And if I give them $5, they can spend it how they want. I don't really care. Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I used to be in the same camp as you for a very long time, and I gave money to basically every single rough sleeper that I walked past. But after speaking to a lot of people in the fields, who the general consensus is that it's best not to give money, which I found really shocking. And the idea is that it kind of reinforces that kind of lifestyle instead of incentivizing them to have to do something else. The way that I handle it now is that first I'll try and get a read on the person. Good 60 to 70% of the people you walk past are not actually homeless when they're begging on the street.
I've heard that in Vegas. I've heard that in Vegas, that it's like a racket. But then I'm like, how do you know if that's even true, or if that's propaganda where there's like, don't help anyone? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. So I've spent the last few months, maybe up to a year, speaking to dozens of people who are sleeping rough, and that they know the streets, they know the ins and outs, and they've helped me identify who's homeless. And the fake homelessness, it's not even as lax as it sounds. There's often a lot of people like gang leaders behind them saying, okay, you 20 people go out, make me money.
Oh, that's
and
horrible.
they might be part of like a human trafficking system or something like that. So it's, in my opinion, you have to be extremely cautious with this kind of stuff. So what I would do is I'll go up to someone and say, hey, I'm not going to give you any money, but would you like me to get you anything from a shop nearby? And I'd make sure it's not something that then be able to sell for anything. So I think it's a pretty legit strategy until you get a lot better at identifying who's who and who's on drugs, who's addicted to drugs. There are a lot of tells you can see, but I wouldn't expect the average person to invest that much time in it.
So how would it work? They would have an app or something, or how does this work? Because a lot of the people you're going to encounter don't have electronics or anything. So how does this exactly work, where they would have like an account or something?
Yeah, exactly. So they'd have an account where their face, name, and they'd have a unique number as well would be on the system. So then you would walk past, say, like Mr. John Bloggs on Oxford Street. He would be holding hopefully a sign if he's, follows the incentive structure saying, you can donate to me via Thrive app. And it would have John Bloggs, it would have 384, whatever his number is. And then let's say you want to, give him enough money for food. You might speak to him, or you might be a bit too anxious to speak to him, so you can donate to him. He would get a text if he doesn't have a phone, which most of them do. But if he doesn't have a phone, he'd be able to check at the end of the day at a Thrive Center how much money have I got. But they get a text, and then that £5 they go to the shop. They wouldn't need the app themselves, and the shop would have a back end version of the app that when this person comes in and says, okay, this is my name, this is my number, they'll be able to put that in, like, okay, you have this much money to spend. And they'll be able to see that it isn't someone else coming in for them because their face is on the app.
That's cool.
I'm really proud of it, man. There's a lot of smart people behind us, and that we've created a system that I think is unexploitable for drugs, which is the biggest one.
There'll be like a little QR code on the sign or something. Is that how you're going to do it?
Yeah, we're thinking about using a QR code or some other kind of scannable code, but we're not sure about that yet.
Cool. I hope it works out. I mean, we have massive problems in the US with homelessness because we just view them as a problem. And like the way that our government deals with it in wealthy areas is they just put those little spikes on the sidewalk so they can't sleep. I'm like, great, you guys solved it. Awesome.
Yeah, it's like how do you do with pigeons?
Yeah, it's horrible. And like, especially if there's a convention of some kind, like political rally or something, they'll just bus homeless people to a different area. I'm like, you're not solving their problems. You're solving our problems with them. Great. Thanks. Like, I don't know. Pretty inhumane.
Yeah. The way my mind always goes to with these issues, and, obviously not to get political, but also with the Black Lives Matter thing, I try to always go deeper and be like, well, what is like the main cause of homelessness, or what is the main cause of these major issues that go back generations? What do you think the main cause of homelessness is?
So I think the biggest issue that's affecting the whole world is just this absolute wealth inequality. Yeah. Like I'm all for billionaires existing. I think that they can do amazing things. I love that Elon Musk exists, but the fact that so few people have all the money, and that they're creating legislation, they're creating structures within our societies which stops poor people getting more money and allows rich people to not have to pay taxes, to be able to just invest their money, to be able to manipulate the stock market in 1,000 different semi-legal ways. I think that's causing so much instability in so much of society. And again, as much as I do support the Black Lives Matter movement in so many different ways, I think that if they were really focusing on wealth inequality more than race, although race is still a big issue they have to be facing, I think they'd be able to do a lot more if they were saying, okay.
So. I think they're and I don't want to get political, but obviously like they're tied together.
Too late for that.
Yeah.
I think it's just such a huge movement that it's hard for it to have. It's hard. There's not like some steering committee right at the start of it that was like, these are our objectives. We will not stray from these. We're going to just be messaging like this. No, there's a lot of emotional people who have had horrible things happen in their lives. And a lot of people, even within the movement, even if they say these are the objectives, they're going to have their own personal objectives as well. I think that that's the problem with such a huge movement, is that there's going to be messaging issues because a lot of people want to accomplish a lot of different things. And like, it's great that it was a huge movement. It's great that there's marches everywhere. I feel like that's one of the best parts about the economy and everything shutting down right now, is that people have the time to actually express how mad they are, when usually they're the people that have to go make $12 an hour somewhere. Like right now,
and the riots got rid of COVID-19.
Dude, the riots are separate though. Like I think that's a little disingenuous to be like Black Lives Matter and riots, because I was like, I think the riots are for the opportunists at night that like they might not care about anything. It might not even be people in BLM. It might just be like, oh cool, I can steal shit and get away with it right now. I think that's the problem is that like
I completely agree with that. I think I meant to say the protests got rid of COVID-19.
Yeah, a lot of people were masked during that, though. I felt like I was like, oh God, it's so hard right now. Like the country's a mess right now, but it's tough because it's like people want to make that point too, where it's like, oh, I can't go to Disney World right now, but you can go protest this thing. And I'm like, well, protesters are wearing a mask and they're trying to like fix society. You just want to go on the Harry Potter ride. It's different.
It's a nuanced issue for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I won't. This is a poker podcast.
Yeah, I actually like told Jamie, and I'm like the biggest hypocrite of everybody because I'm like, yeah, I don't want to get anything too heavy on our pod, like, you know, in general, not just with you, but like with anybody. But you know,
it's hard.
It's happening. So, you know, here we are. We have to address it, maybe. But
yeah. One day we're gonna have a pod that is the only rule will be there's no poker. And we'll just talk about these issues and make like thousands of enemies.
We'll be canceled. He'll be so canceled by then.
Yeah. So I wanted to just like ask, so pretty much I feel like, so I'm going to just generalize your life, Charlie, because you know that's not obnoxious at all. But you said you used to consider yourself kind of a bad person and self-motivated or like self-centered. And then you said you started working on like self-improvement and sometimes teaching people for free and coaching. And then now you're going the charity way. So did you like consciously decide you're like, okay, I'm going to work on myself first, make sure that I'm living the way that I think I should be living, and then look outward, like you want to help fix the community and the world and stuff? Is that something you consciously were trying to do, like solve your own shit first?
There were a few big moments where my life turned from absolute nihilist, very sociopathic, very high on the spectrum, where I then decided, okay, maybe I want to be a good person. Then I was like, okay, if I want to be a good person, I probably have to look at philanthropy in the future. So probably from the age of like 21, 22, I was really set on going down the charitable route. I thought that I was going to have to make hundreds of millions of dollars before I even started. But now I've got a better understanding of how the sector works. You actually don't need that much money to be able to change the world. You just need a really damn good idea and people who are really good at sorting out those ideas, which is actually pretty hard because I'm somebody that has a lot of ideas. Like I'm a bit of an idealist. I'm just like, oh man, why can't we just all get on? You know, that kind of person at heart. But I've had to learn how to ground myself and how to live in reality and how to become a pragmatic person. I've had to surround myself with employees and people who I'm working with who are actually really good at just being like, no, if you do that, then this will happen, this will happen. This Charlie, calm down for a second. You know, those kind of people. But yeah, it was a very, very gradual shift from being somebody who was completely self-centered. I mean, absolutely, I would have killed the whole entire world to save my own life because I didn't believe there was an afterlife. I didn't believe there was anything else. I would have pressed that button in a heartbeat.
That's okay, because I was about to try to let you off the hook and be like, Charlie, at like age 17, everyone is just like, oh, I want to like, everyone is like that. I'm like, oh, I would, you know, I would steal a Game Boy or something like that. Like people just, you know, the shoplifting shit, or like, I want to try this drug and like, I'll take $10 from my mom to try it. That kind of thing. I think at like in your teenage years, like you're an asshole, like everyone is. But yeah, I wouldn't have obliterated the whole planet.
Nah, man, in a heartbeat, everyone would have been lucky. I didn't have a position of power. I was a drug dealer. I was a complete nihilist without knowing what nihilist meant. And I really had built up this whole ideology of how life works. And I had so much certainty that I was right because morality was just a subjective structure which nobody understood. And I thought the only thing that can be right is that you have a preference for your own well-being and everything else is just arbitrary. But in hindsight, I was just a kid, as most kids were. And it was created through a defense mechanism, I think, from when I had a lot of childhood trauma. And that childhood trauma made me lose touch with my emotions, with my empathy, with you know, connecting with other human beings. And from that arose an ideology which was really dangerous.
Yeah, I think that's natural though. If people are mean to you, you're not going to like people. You're not going to care about their well-being. You're going to have to care about yourself first if they're not caring about you.
Well, thanks for kind of letting me off the hook there.
Oh man.
So just to wrap up a little bit, you're telling us you don't play much poker these days. Are you planning? What's your relationship with poker now? Like, what is Charlie Carrel as a poker player going forward?
Yeah, I'm trying to work up my way towards it again. I'm trying to get a good run up before probably jumping into some of these GG events coming on WSOP. But I had such a good amount of success during the Scoop and during whatever the party poker version of Scoop was, that I'm in no pressure. I'm in no hurry to have to play anything. And so currently I'm just enjoying my life, working on myself, releasing a lot of trauma from past things, and trying to become the best version of me that I can. But I'm sure I'll get back into poker. I absolutely adore the game, and I still feel the drive to be competitive at the highest levels.
Let us know is there some way to support the charity efforts you are coming up with right now, or is this going to be the kind of thing where the coming months you'll give some people an idea of how to help?
In about a month, our website will be live, so I'll be able to point people towards it then. And thanks for asking, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Looking forward to that, and looking forward to seeing you on Twitch, seeing you in each other.
You too, madam.
Yeah. And thanks so much. See you guys next time. Peace.